Welcome back to the Unwind Podcast. This is a podcast that I wanted to start because I didn't like how surface level and interview-like most business podcasts are. This is all about entrepreneurs, business people, professionals coming together, unwinding, slowing down and reflecting on their lives over a drink. That's really, really important. I don't want it to be super formal. I want it to be laid back and transparent. Hope you guys can get some value out of this. We've got tons of exciting guests lined up. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Music or YouTube, please subscribe, show a friend. I really appreciate it. And now let's get into the pod. Boys, welcome to the Unwind Podcast. We're here today with Jolly. Good start. Ollie, Joe and Liam. So Joe and Ollie, they are co-directors of Soar With Us, a really successful e-commerce agency, and Liam, Joe, Ollie and myself are recently all co-directors of a TikTok first performance and creative agency for you advertising. So boys, thank you for coming on the Unwind Podcast.
Thanks for the invite.
So as everyone knows, well, there's been 2 fucking episodes, but the diehard fans so far know that obviously we, the guests have a drink of choice. So Molly in the first episode picked the Baileys and Spring, which I wasn't too happy about. Then Jordan and Joe, we just went for the simple beers. And then anyone want to care to explain what you have gone for?
I'm on board with this.
So this is a dirty Vimto, and it came about just while I was at uni, having ruined every other drink that I'd ever got, ever. So vodka, can't drink anymore. Rum, loved, but kept ruining it with like Fanta, lemonade. Fizzy Vimto is the one, and finish it off with half a lime if you can, but we don't have that today, so.
No.
So I guess while I just make those drinks, actually, let's just do a bit of the context on who you boys are, what you do, a narrative as to where you are up until this point, really.
Someone else go first. I'll go then. So me and Ollie on the end, we started a now full service e-com agency called Soar With Us about 2.5 years ago now. Mainly just a Facebook, Instagram ads agency to start with. Ollie had quite a bit of experience with Facebook ads before that point. I'd not really done anything to do with that. I tried a few dropshipping things when I was at uni, nothing worked out. We've been mates since we were like 12 years old, and just I think over a few pints decided to start something together, and then hustled, just us two, for a whole summer, no results. Cut a long story short, started getting results, did pretty well just ourselves, and then brought Liam on, who was also a really close friend for a while.
Still am.
Yeah, it still is. Still is. Which some people think stupid bringing on your friends, but I think it's one of the best choices we ever made. And then it went from like having Liam as an employee, and then another friend as well from school called Matt, to a year later having 20 plus employees, now offering range of services, email marketing, design. That's pretty much it in terms of the Soar With Us story. And then met Lucas through, I guess, a Facebook group. He helped us with some creative things with the agency, and then as TikTok started taking off as a service offering for our Soar With Us agency, saw the opportunity to brand ourselves or brand a new agency as the leader within that space. Only really launched the start of this year. We're all co-owners of that.
Yeah, we'll get more into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So obviously, very humble. These guys have built a fucking 7-figure agency at the age of 24, which is obviously pretty nuts. As well, they're getting a name for themselves. Positive name that is in the e-com space. We'll get into their networking a little bit later, but
depends who you ask.
Yeah, exactly. When we were at that event the other day, and I think when we spoke about it after, you were like, yeah, you just need to be remembered, however that happens.
If you go into a networking event, you got to be remembered. You don't want to be forgotten. Yeah, it's pointless being there.
Yeah,
and there's multiple ways to do that.
Yeah,
not all
exactly. Like they say, any news is good news. But talk a little bit about the scaling side of the business. Like how did that go? How fast did you scale it to a 7-figure business where you're doing 6 figures a month? What did that look like?
Pretty fast.
Yeah. Should be pretty transparent.
I think it went pretty fast from like one input. Well, I'd say January 2020. January 2020, was that all right there? Yeah, January 2020 to January to like the end of 2020. It was like fast in terms of growth. Probably too fast from like full transparency. I think balancing growth and service delivery is probably an issue most face early doors. Maintaining quality of service and balancing sales like volume and growth. We've definitely got way better at that. Well, I'd say we'd completely fixed that now, but fixed that a long time ago. But yeah, we grew fast in those first stages. I think we're massively helped by COVID. Obviously, as like,
were you always ecom focused then?
Yeah. Always
ecom. Not right at the start. Once we kind of had our like a stable level of revenue, where it was like anyone who's offering us money, we don't say okay to. But then we focused on ecom. But we worked with a few gyms and stuff, and we started out the journey. It was very much like we were completely broke.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think again, similarly to our agency, like I think everyone starts brick and mortar, don't you? Realise like it's not quite the same. For me anyway, it was like when I was in my old job, it was restaurants because they're the only fucking business that was still open. Like when you finish work and could cold call.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We went cautious, quite like intentionally after ecom. I had done quite a bit of media buying for ecom before, so it made sense from the service delivery standpoint. But it's always hard. It was always a bit harder without experience, without like case studies and testimonials and things to get the trust on side. But we just did a few free trials and then it took off from there.
I'd like to get into, because I know a lot of these kind of podcasts get people on that have built successful businesses. How deep, what was the switch? What was the moment where, what did you do in terms of systemization? What in terms of the business to scale it? Because it's I was saying, I've said actually in a couple of these that it's you can work hard getting from 0 to 10K and do it just by working hard. But I think when you're 30K plus a month, it comes down to having a well-oiled machine and the systems that you put in place. I know, Ollie, you're very heavy on systems. Talk a bit about that and how that impacted the growth.
I'd say twofold. Having a co-founder where you can... Agency is very easy to split into two verticals. You've got service delivery and then acquisition of clients. And I feel like most people who have a co-founder will split it down that. So someone will do the sales and then the other person will do the service delivery. And there'll be nuances within that, but that definitely helps because you can stay in your lane and focus on one area, and that'll take you to like a decent amount of revenue. But then from like a systemization standpoint, it's just like documenting. Like that is what a business is. It's just loads of processes that other people follow. Nothing else. It's not that much more complicated beyond that. Every business can kind of, to a degree, be distilled down to that. Like even a restaurant is that. Like it's the process to make the food, to deliver it to the table, to take a payment. Everything's processed and documented, and then you just give that to people. But there is like, again, a lot more complexity than just doing that. I think getting like a centralized, we use Notion, like something like that in place where everything is in there, even down to like stuff like a good example I always use is like first Slack message. We started using Slack, then everyone starts joining it, then they don't turn notifications on. So it's pointless having them in there in the fucking first place. So we processed that. It was like, if you add them, you send this templatized message to make sure they maximize like notification. That's like a micro example of something where like you really systemize it down to like the nth degree.
Yeah.
And it makes things more efficient. I think you have to do that beyond a certain amount of people. If you've got like, it avoids the need for micromanagement. It ensures high quality. And I also think every sort of 6 to 7 employees, you have to rework them top to bottom. So we've pretty much just reworked all of ours again from front to back, with Matt, our COO, like all the way through.
How many, you got a team of 20, is it now?
24.
24.
We
right.
probably need to add like 3 more people in the next 30 days. Again.
And it's in-house as well, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, like, I bang on about culture and how important it is for us. Like, you know, there's not many e-com agencies that I know out there that promote, that have an in-house culture. I know, like, obviously Jordan and Joe with Affluent, very successful agency, but all remote. You guys are obviously, you know, in-house. Talk a bit about that then. How important is culture? What have you done to build a great culture? It'd be interesting to hear that, because I think actually just on that, I'd like to hear it from your perspective, Joe and Ollie.
It'd be good to get.
But then I'd like to hear Liam's perspectives, because we'll get into this. But Liam was actually their first employee at SOAR. Now he's a co-director for you. So let's go from you guys and then from Liam's perspective.
I think it started off with just me and Ollie sitting down and you know, just thinking, what do we value ourselves, and then thinking back. Well, I thought back to my time working in Morgan Stanley, and how there was like 4 clearly defined values, and it was like, okay, let's also just pick 4 clearly defined values. We're both quite similar in terms of like mindset and work ethic and principles, so we just sat down really and thought, like, what do we want
it was
people to be like? It wasn't a train. I got a template, a slide deck of somewhere.
Always starts
Netflix,
like that,
wasn't
though.
it?
Yeah, I watched a video on the Netflix culture deck, which is like public.
Have you read the book?
Yeah, everyone
Sick
should
book.
read that. I
Yeah.
watched that, and then an Alex Becker video where he broke down, because he has a really good culture for Hyros. Like, it's all pretty interesting. Read those, and then we came up with ours. I think you need one, not internally, but also when you're hiring people, you should hire for culture fit first, not skill set. That's what we do, because we train a lot of people. So
You obviously work with a lot of friends as well.
well, you make it sound like half the company. We work with a few friends, yeah.
That is quite
Just
a lot.
a big
But
fucking
like,
friendship.
I ran out of friends. That's why I have to hire other people. But when you're hiring people who you're going to train or skill up, I guess, from scratch, there's benefits and there's costs and benefits of that. You have to have a good system to it. I think it's working really, really, really well for us. It's obviously a little bit cheaper. I feel like you get good buy-in because you've skilled them up in the first place. There is the negatives, especially from a medium buying perspective, I guess, of not managing massive budgets. So, like, how do you train that without experience? But if you're doing that, you have to hire for culture first, because you can teach a lot. You can teach someone to media buy. It's not that complex. Just like they need some raw skills, but they
soft
have to
skills. It's so
can't teach
important.
someone's mindset.
You can't. You know, we've had a couple of people at our agency that they've not been bad at their job by any means, but there's just certain things that you can't teach someone. You know, like there was someone that worked at the company a while ago, and it's just that like lack of passion and drive. It's that kind of shit like you can't teach as an employer. So it's a good point.
There's a few ways we try and instill it or have it, actually implement it. So extreme ownership is one of the values that we have. We just put that in the job application, like ask people what they think it is, and that.
Put the answers to that.
That. Firstly, like
so bad.
just like general intellect, because some people just will answer completely wrong when they could have just Googled it.
What? Talk about some of the answers you've had for that. Then.
I think somebody literally just didn't like copy and paste the question.
So,
Just said like it's having extreme ownership or something. We were like, okay. Somebody was they copied and pasted the first thing that comes up on Google. So, like things like that catches them out. And then there's some people like we had. I can't remember who it was, but it was like a A4 page answer of like all this example.
Carry on. This guy's almost just knocked out the whole set, but we'll continue.
Just like a massive example of how they'd implemented it within their life, and you could tell that they'd actually, even if they didn't know what it was before being asked the question, they'd gone and researched it and then constructed an answer around it. And I think that's that one we ask because it's it's unknown by a lot of people like what it actually means, and then we constantly try and implement that within the work life. Like we give a lot of employees responsibility, and I think every employee we have is very implements extreme ownership very well. Like we have nobody ever passes the blame. Everyone's always trying to solve problems themselves. So I think that one comes through quite a lot in just the day to day.
How do you try and implement that then?
I call it structured autonomy. Like, you have to have some structure, but you want people to be autonomous to their own decisions. Like you don't want to, don't believe in micromanagement, like time tracking softwares, anything like that. It's just not for me. I think when you start getting down that kind of route, you should just hire better people if you need to watch them that closely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like giving it put the reins, isn't it? Putting reins on someone is confining them to a box, and as a result, they're going to do exactly what's within that box and not push beneath that.
So yeah, and it's not perfect. Like, it's not. It will never be perfect, and maybe as we get bigger, it'll become more needed. Like, don't know. Yeah, I think it's working well. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on the culture.
Yeah.
And then also from that, we're obviously now in the early stages of the new agency, so we're building a new. It's like building a different culture for that as well.
We'll get on to that in a bit.
Yeah, I mean the other.
What do you think?
I think go through all the values first,
Okay.
and then pass to Liam. So there's profitability.
There's this four pillars.
Yeah, extreme ownership, profitability, like profit first, happiness, and then exceptional
Personal happiness.
content, exceptional results.
They all have a little tagline. Personal happiness is like people are there because they want to be there, which I think is very important.
Nice.
I just fundamentally believe you shouldn't do things you don't enjoy in life.
Yeah, 100%.
Too short. Profitability is like a bit of a business focused one, but like I think it's easy to, if you've not been in the agency space, to get wrapped up in like really good relationships, but people will not work for you, especially from a performance standpoint, if you're not making them money. Like, you can have a great relationship with a company, but if you're not making them money, it just doesn't matter. And then quality, which is how you do one thing is how you do everything, which is basically just like attention to detail, just making sure that everything you do is the highest level. Those are the four.
I think they all shine through as well. Like the profitability side, everyone, like the metrics, how everyone reads the data is so like that's such a guiding principle of managing the accounts. Everyone is very focused on that, and if something's not working, people know why. And then also on the other side, profitability. I think that also ties to us as a company. A lot of our employees are very like on the ball when it comes to this client could probably, come on another service. We have employees that are like salesmen as well because they understand how business works. That comes through. The happiness side, I think we do like a lot to ensure happiness. Do a lot of like social stuff, nice environment. I try and sit down with employees every few weeks and just make the meeting like all about them and just be like, how do we help you progress? What do you want to get out of the role? Which is the one like excellent service. Quality service, I think, kind of ties to how we read the data and how employees try and stick to that. And yeah, that's it really.
So Liam, spotlight's on you, mate. How does this translate?
It's all a lie.
I'm here against my will.
I didn't know we had culture pillars.
News to me. No, I think it's translated really nicely, and it's been built upon as soon as I got there. Well, obviously, was the third person involved. But I think,
Big up the flat.
Oh, what, did you live together before?
Yeah, we lived together.
Oh,
and then it was us three on a table for like 2 months.
It's not just friendship, it's, the old saying, don't shit where you sleep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did.
Is that it? Where you eat? Yeah.
We had him we had him again. It sounds like we're forcing him. He's working for another market agency, and we were like, Ollie was managing like 25 ad accounts or something.
Makes it sound bad. Makes it sound bad. Can't say that.
We managed to do a good job for all of them.
Yeah. Well, it's paid off, hasn't it? So.
Yeah. Well, the quality was still there. Just your mental health was not. It wasn't sustainable. And then we got asked Liam to help with a few accounts, like just because he was sat next to us whilst we were working.
Yeah.
And I was chilling while they were working, so I was
extra.
But no, I think, as soon as I got there, really, I suppose because it was my friends, and people say don't work with your mates necessarily, but I think the openness from day one has translated as we've scaled, really, because I came from a very different background to like the paid side of things, and I really needed to rapidly educate myself on the industry. All the training that I needed was done, sorted. Anything else that I ran into, if it was a roadblock, just ask. And obviously, because they're my friends, they were like, yes, okay. And then I think that's stuck with us in a way, like as we've employed people who are outside of our circle, like the ability for people to come to us and be like, I'm missing a piece of knowledge in this area, can I get some help? That's probably been the main thing in terms of the culture is that openness to help everyone do as best as they can.
Yeah.
Wherever possible.
Interesting.
We do weekly training sessions, but I never
often?
like we do every week we do like an hour, maybe 2 hours some weeks, where someone in the company will lead a training session on something.
That's really
And
interesting.
we never
like
I
that.
never do them. Matt never leads them. It's always just a team member. We've got
What,
some
just as in something in terms of what their
so
responsibilities
someone
are.
might do like an hour on cost cap bidding Facebook ads. Someone might do an hour on copywriting, or an hour on
Strong.
like create some creative practice that's working.
Yeah.
And that just is great because they're obviously learning, they're enjoying it, and then when you teach it to someone, you learn it even more. It's like reinforces your knowledge.
Because you've got fucking killers.
It helps when you got the dark assassins.
It's a fucking like being directors of a company. It's like Stephen Bartlett said it. It's like you're a recruiter. Like that's what you are. That's what you do as a director. Because realistically, you want those people that are gonna grow the company in their skill sets, bring people on that are better than you.
That's the only fear when you hire people who haven't got training. Like, you train them and then they don't go and search for more beyond that training? Because there's only so much. Like for me, like my position within the business right now is I don't want to be the person who's the most experienced media buyer. It makes no sense for me to be that person. So it's like if we train them to a certain point, which is basically using like mine and Matt's and like people who are internals knowledge and courses, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it's then on them in such a fast moving space to constantly seek out new tactics.
But you wouldn't have been able to, like you are now, disconnect from Soar with us and start scaling another business alongside that. So that obviously helps. We'll move on from the culture point in a moment, but what I'd like to talk about, because I think people could get a lot of value from this. There's a lot of people that go into business with friends, like you say. There's a stigma attached to that.
Yeah.
How do you where's the line there when it's your mate? Have you had any difficult situations like where it's difficult to, from my side, Molly obviously is family. We had some issues at the start that we spoke about in episode 1 where it's hard to draw where the line is, and where, because they're either a friend or a family member, they maybe don't treat you like a boss. How do you kind of deal with that kind of stuff?
But personally, I think it's dependent, like majority, on the friend that you pick.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's risky going into it, but like Liam's never tries to take the piss out of us. Yeah. Well, as far as we know, yeah. Like it is risky, and it is like fully banking on the loyalty. But I don't know. I feel like as a friendship group, we're also like really tight. Just from like stuff I hear from other friendship groups. So it was like we've never really had to have much of an awkward conversation with Liam. Like whenever we've expected something, he's just done it and gone above what we've expected.
I would say it probably depends upon why they're coming into your business, because obviously it wasn't too much a risk with me because I had a background in marketing. But if you had somebody who, say, just because these guys had a business, they just wanted to get involved, and I would see that leading to a relationship where people might take the piss in terms of like doing bare minimum, expecting more, stuff like that, just because it's your friends. But everyone of our friends that's got involved has got involved for the right reasons and really wants to help build their business. So it's never been like, what can I get out of these two? It's always like, how can we help?
Yeah, 100%.
You get really good buy-in as well, from my experience. Just if you hire the right, like,
more trust there from the start.
There's a lot of people I would not hire that I know. But like, I feel like everybody probably has that. But there's also there's also people that like within your circle that like fundamentally are like switched on individuals, and can have drive and have and like we've hired a couple of people that I personally know that had no experience in marketing but are now killing it.
Yeah.
I think that's just having the read on the person.
I think,
isn't it? Of like,
I think
they're gonna be good.
Yeah.
Just of how they are as a friend.
Having a transparent relationship with them would be is crucial, because like I've never really ran into an issue with any. We've never really had any problems with anybody we've hired that we know at all. In terms of like,
there was one that wasn't an issue, but he just he didn't really
He
want
just
to do
didn't
it.
really, just didn't really want to do it, so he left.
We left it. It was fine. Completely.
So that's
fine.
it. That's an interesting topic actually, because I know I've heard you boys speak about this before, and it's like I was actually debating this with a friend recently. The idea of whether the promoting entrepreneurship, within the business, someone who has side hustles or other things going on. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of own CEOs, but for instance, Chris, who works for me, he's like, does a lot of TikTok on the side. He fucking loves his side hustles, and he's making some good money on the side. What are your thoughts on that? I know you guys actually promote it, don't you?
Yeah, I'm all for it. We've got a good guy.
Well, he's a prime example. He now owns a percentage of a new business. Like, we're actively looking to start businesses with people who work with us in the next year.
I love that.
You get better buy-in as well.
And you can trust them.
I think it works
proof
well.
of concept.
It works well because we're a marketing agency, so technically any other business that's born out of our staff, we can also be involved in.
Anyone need a reload?
I'm all good for now.
Yeah.
Do you want to pass that round? And
You also, I feel like if as long as the business is within the lane of marketing, which is broad, like most people who are working for us are going to start businesses within like e-com or marketing of some form. Like, is it Krish who works for you?
yeah.
Like, he runs a TikTok account. Like,
I got you.
the overspill effects of him running a TikTok account is probably going to enhance your service in some way.
Oh, 100%.
Matt, our COO, runs his own e-com store. Like, him running his own e-com store is going to make him better at his job. Jamie, who works for us, wants to start his own app.
Yep.
If that in 2 or 3 years leads to him leaving the company, then fair enough. He's like,
I feel like if we don't support that, they're going to do it secretively.
They're going to grow to resent you and probably leave sooner. Where if you support them doing the two at the same time, and like you say, the skills they're learning on the side for doing that. Like, for instance, Chris, like the shit he's almost testing. He's posting 30 TikToks a week. He's testing at scale, organic, and what's working on the platform. And then he's tested it on himself, and then he knows what works, and we can implement it with our clients.
Yeah.
The worst thing you do is just be like, all right, well, do you want to do part-time instead of full-time because your business is going well? And like that, I feel like that's pretty feasible, but they'd still add a lot of value, and you just have to go and hire someone else. But
yeah,
I think it just adds authority to anybody else's role. So like, if say, somebody had an e-com brand, they'd be able to speak the right language to all the other brand owners that we work with.
It's such a flex.
It'd be pretty contradictory as well. I did an internship where I pretty much spent the whole time just doing work for the business. When I was when I was at uni, just had 2 screens, one just doing lead gen for an agency.
Is not the reverse where if you're an entrepreneur at heart, are you going to work for someone else? For a prolonged period of time. I feel like every entrepreneur that I know has done it for 6 months, fucking hated it.
I think it depends on the business.
Depends on the end goal as well. We used to ask it ask as a question in the interviews. I see it as a positive if they say yeah, and then I just be very blunt with them. Like one of the guys we just mentioned, I just said like, "What's your end goal?" Like, be honest with us. Like, do you want to have your own business at the end goal? And he was like, "Yeah, to be honest, this is a stepping stone job. I want to come in and learn from you guys who are killing it, and then hopefully have my own thing." And we were like, okay, that's fine. Like, we're going to support you to do that. So yeah,
I think what it also does is it gives people the opportunity. If you're supporting them being an entrepreneur and thinking for themselves and having that creative freedom, it's more likely that they're also going to be encouraged to do that within the business. If they've got ideas that they want to implement and grow within the company, they're more likely to do that because you're promoting that.
Yeah.
Everybody's still adding tons of value and adding learnings that they've got from their side things to the main business. So there's no real issue that I've been aware of.
Yeah.
Well, that guy I mentioned, he's got better e-commerce understanding than like a lot of people because he loves it.
Yeah.
And he'll come to the office and he'll be like, "Oh, did you see this happened?" And he'll share so many things in the Slack team channel. And it's like, that's only because he is so entrepreneurial.
He lives it.
And he provides so much more value than what we expect from the role.
I think the idea that if you're an entrepreneur, you'd hate working for someone's not true as well. I think it's more true in the UK. I think if you're in America, I think a lot of people would be better entrepreneurs if they went and worked for someone first.
Yeah,
So a lot of people say like tech entrepreneurs. It's a big thing in that space. It's like advocating working for someone before you start your own company.
yeah, and I think as well, some people want to have their own thing going on, but just really also, what motivates them is security. If you've got the security of a full-time job that also promotes you doing your side hustle, it's the perfect combination.
I'd love to work for a company eventually. I think it like having not
There's
done it.
no way you're going
Eventually, at some
I
point.
don't think so.
Not for ages, but like at some point, I just think it would be fun to just grow one business. Like whether that's my maybe it's my own business.
I think what you're basically saying is going in like as an angel investor, right?
Yeah,
Or-
something like that.
an advisor.
Just
or
very
on board,
very
yeah,
focused on
something.
one thing.
Yeah.
Not scatting around all over the place doing like a million things.
Yeah. So moving on then. So Saw obviously doing over 6 figures a month. You moved to For You. Talk about that process and talk about how we came together. And I think there's some value there.
The revolution, mate. The
TikTok made me do it.
TikTok made me do it.
Yeah, it did.
We just started running TikTok ads through Saw, and then just rode the wave and noticed how much demand there was for it. So I think Blue Ocean, spin up an offer towards TikTok, just make it very focused. That I think positioning is massive. So having an agency that is focused just in that vertical sets you ahead of so many people. Just from what we've experienced, there's a lot of that narrative in like agency lives. Like people you see it a lot on like agency content around like you should focus on either Facebook ads or emails. You shouldn't do everything. So I think we spun that up off the back of having a fair bit of experience media buying, but we noticed the biggest bottleneck for most people was content.
Yeah.
And the content feedback loops, the biggest like leverage in performance marketing now is that data to content feedback loop. So internalizing it all into one business makes sense.
Yeah, and like we've said, I know it's a big part of the sales process, but having the ability to internally feedback on that data, and optimize on the content is huge. Having all that in one spot. So was there always this vision for Liam to be a partner? Like where did that come from, and then talk about how we introduced to it.
Because the thing we said about the entrepreneurial side, Liam was spending his free time like researching TikTok and like buying books on it and shit and just reading into it and
researching TikTok, racking up 9 hours a day.
I was going to say,
My screen time was
research
disgusting.
TikTok.
Bandaged on his thumb on a Monday. Just rolling.
basically headed up like a lot of the accounts, or like was just involved in the TikTok side of the agency, and then became pretty apparent that he wanted to put in more work than we'd expected of him just on the TikTok side, because he also saw the potential in speaking for you, but also just loved everything that TikTok is about. And then me and Ollie obviously just appreciated that effort he was putting in, and I think it's just cool to be able to go into business with a friend.
100%.
Rather than Ollie.
It's also fucking.
Rather than
It's
claims.
just a great story as well. The fact that you're their first employee, and then
Yeah, I mean, I always loved TikTok, as everyone did with lockdown. All I did was watch TikTok.
Research,
exactly. And yeah, I just obviously, as it got bigger, more and more clients were having a dabble with Saw, and like Ollie said, it became apparent immediately that people just couldn't execute on the scale needed for creative. So we just spoke about it and we said it needs to be its own thing. TikTok's its own beast. You can't just use content that's traditionally for Instagram or anywhere like that. We need to do it front to back, and here we are.
Yeah. So talk a bit about then. I got involved in, was it January time?
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to hear that from your perspective, because obviously I'm now co-director. What was that? How did that kind of come around? Was that a difficult thing to bring in a fourth director?
Not really.
I'd rather have a slice of a watermelon than a whole grape.
That's the whole mantra.
I've heard that one.
It's such a good motto, man. Like,
Nah, it's great.
it's like the problem for us
Refill, please.
was,
I'll take them over here.
I think a lot of our demand gen has come from Twitter. Like, I started tweeting about what we were doing on TikTok and it just went a bit wild. I don't know why.
Because it's the hot topic.
I don't know.
It's just hot shit.
Yeah, and it's just like
Your growth has been ridiculous on that platform.
Yeah, it's been wild.
We'll get on to that.
I don't think I'm that interesting. And then we just we needed, like, the media buying is very scalable. Like, that process, like we all come from a performance background. Like, we spend money on Facebook at scale. The media buying process on TikTok is incredibly similar, or there's very transferable skills within the two platforms. However, content briefing, content relationships, creator relationships is a complete, like, well, it was a complete mystery to us. Like, it's something we hadn't touched. And yes, like, we could have spent 3 months learning that and tried to hire for it internally, but we wouldn't have really known what we were hiring for. And we already had a relationship with you and we knew you killed what you did. So it's like, why wouldn't we just leverage that and bring you in to facilitate the business? And
yeah,
I just very strongly believe that if you have ownership in something, you're going to always have more incentive.
yeah,
I think it's similar. It was quite a similar situation to the Liam thing. Like, I got involved technically as like you're fucking free outsourcing to Hammy Media to do the creative, and then very quickly, like, I was like, it felt like my own thing. Like, I was like, it's that excitement again of the new business, and, like, you know, I think we can. I don't know how transparent we want to be, but it's growing very quickly as an agency, and I think we can all appreciate that this has a very strong potential that it's going to outgrow both of our businesses, like, within probably before the start of next year, even potentially. Like, the growth is insane, and, you know, I just grew to love it, and I think, you know, TikTok is such an exciting place right now. It's the gold medal, it's the shiny object, and when I kind of came on board, and then that excitement of building out systems again, systemizing the creative and how we did that, you know, it felt like something I really wanted to be a part of. And then obviously we had that conversation and made it happen.
I don't know about you. I just think it's more fun as a platform. Like, when I go into Instagram and I come away, like, it's almost like you go in, you compare yourself to a lot of other people's highlights, and you come away like, oh,
exactly.
That was a pretty terrible experience. Whereas you go into TikTok and it's just full of just funny people, like, really funny people.
And that we want to reflect that in the culture and, like, the company as a whole. Like,
more
we want
creative,
it to be fun.
Yeah.
So I think people could get some value actually in hearing a bit about how, again, I don't know if you boys are happy for us to discuss this, but I mean, I would be, just the way that we're structuring the pod system. I think there's a lot of value in that. I think pods, when I say pod, it's almost like a group within the company of different roles and responsibilities. They can handle a certain level of work, and then once you max out that pod, you build out another pod, and it's a very scalable model. Talk a bit about that.
Nick Shackelford, wasn't it?
We went to Geek Out and then spoke to Nick Shackelford. I don't know if you watched this, maybe.
I hope so. I loved having a hug from you, Nick.
Yeah.
That's my claim to fame.
He builds Structured Social, which is, like, I think about 120 plus people now in pods, and it keeps a level of efficiency that you get with a very small team. Like, it's almost like a micro business within a business. Like, if you're working in teams of 3 rather than teams of 20, your communication is a massive inefficiency.
Mood light.
That's so annoying.
Communication becomes a big inefficiency if you're communicating across a lot of people. So I think, like, pod structure, you have 3 people. For us, we have 3 people. For others, it may be like 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be. We have a media buyer, creative strategist, and account manager. They will work across 6 to 8 clients, depending on size, depending on workload. And then once we fill those up, we'll just build another one, and then we'll fill that up, and then we'll build another one.
Yeah.
And it keeps it very, like, systemized in terms of hire for it, fill it, hire for it, fill it, and it's very defined roles.
I think in terms of for you as well, why I love it, and, you know, we've built out pod structures with Hammy Media, but the difference is when you're offering 4 or 5 services, it's fucking hard to scale that and build out those teams and those pods. for you, it's very clear, you know, you can either do creative UGC only, you can do paid performance, or you can do both. Or obviously we do our workshops, but and you know, it makes things so fucking easy.
Yeah, you get that feedback loop going. Simplicity scales. That's just such a fact.
Yeah, 100%.
So much easier.
Yeah, for sure. So like, what are your again? We were supposed to. These boys have been here for 3 days. One of the reasons they came to London was for us to sit down as a four and do some business dev together and look at the future of the company. So we may as well fucking do it now.
Live in person.
So I mean, it'd be interesting to hear from each of you, like where you see the business going, like full transparency. You know, do you want to sell it? Like, what do you want to do? Where do you see for you advertising going? Because it's obviously growing very quickly, and it can go in a million different directions.
I think it's hard to say. Like,
we'll all say different things.
If the offer's there, you know, it's hard to say. Everyone's got a price. Everything's got a price. I want to build this to be the most renowned. I mean, we're already probably there in terms of TikTok agencies, but you know, just have a wait list that's like 6 to 12 months long of like crazy brands that want to work with us. We already have a wait list of pretty big brands that want to work with us, but you know, I'd never want to focus on trying to sell something. I want to make it the best possible thing we can do. But I think in like 2 or 3 years, we'll get some crazy offers for the agency just because of the growth of the industry.
Yeah.
And what we're currently doing.
TikTok as a platform as well. Like, I feel like if you're part of Money Twitter, you know, fucking, if you're just in the TikTok sphere, it feels like it's been around for a while, but it's so early. Like, we don't realize we're part of a bubble right now.
Oh, definitely.
In the grand scheme of things, you know, it's still very early, and you know, the rest of the market hasn't really caught up yet.
Took a lot of brands like 5 years, 10 years to get on Facebook. Like, there's still a lot of brands we come across on Facebook who haven't spent any money on there. It's like just running e-com stores with no demand gen. Yeah, I don't really look that far forward personally. I'm not very struggle to see next month. Never mind. Like,
yeah, tell me about it.
Down the line. I just think just make it like really good at what we do. That's keep it and scale that up. So like we already are good at what we do, but like do that at a multiple of 10 with where we are now, and then just see where that takes us in a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's an exciting time, like starting a new business again. It's really exciting. And I think what's nice is that we've been able to, obviously we still, you know, play a part in the other agencies that we run, but it's refreshing. I was talking to you about this, that it's refreshing to know that you can pull away and the machine is still flowing. You know, the machine is still running. How's that been from your perspective, like pulling away from one agency to an extent? You know, with your team, have you had any issues there?
Not really.
It's not really been a pull away, yeah.
It's probably from my perspective, like Matt, our CEO, is killing it, so it makes it a lot easier for me to not spend as much time on it. However, doing the TikTok agency has overflows to our other agency. Sure. Like, if you deliver really good service, there's a lot of people in the agency space who don't deliver good service. So if you deliver it well in one area, and then you're like, oh, well, we can do this for a different entity, a lot of people take you up on that offer.
Yeah.
It has good overspill. Vice versa, like there's a lot of things we've done within Store over 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, where I would do them very differently now. So there's a lot of cross learnings back the other way.
Yeah.
I think it's quite nice to have two different entities that are very different and then apply the learnings across the two.
Yeah, for sure.
The processes have definitely been like an arms race in terms of like, well, we've set this up for you. Okay, Saw wants now to do this as well. And like Matt just redid all the process for Saw, and I'm like, Jesus, that's sick. Let's do it before you. So it's like just not one up in each other, but growing and learning
from each other,
and that's been a huge positive.
For sure. So something I want to get on to, because again, people watching, the power of networking is obviously ridiculous. I think actually you guys really kind of showed me the power of networking. Obviously, went to Geek Out recently, and it was ROI positive before you even got in the plane. Yeah. Firstly, talk about that situation. Talk about the importance of networking and how you've used that as a tool.
Firstly, you don't go for an ROI. You go because it's good experience. Well,
Yeah.
we went because it was. Well, we got gifted the tickets to the first one.
Shout out Triple Whale.
Yeah, from Triple
What
Whale.
was that? Is that Geek Out Dubai?
Dubai.
Yeah.
Triple
Yeah.
Whale gave us tickets.
And
Otherwise,
Sunday.
I didn't even know what it was until they gave us tickets.
This was 2 weeks before
Yeah.
it's happening.
Rabba was just like, "Do you want some tickets?" I was like, "Yeah," because I'd done quite a bit of like.
They flew
Stuff
you
like
out,
that.
didn't they, as well?
No.
No, we paid for the flights, but we went, and it was just like I feel like the UK has no entrepreneurial culture, which we're working on. We're working on. Keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for that. But the US and other countries do, and there's a lot of people. It's easy to, when you're stuck in, like not stuck in the UK, but you're in the UK, you feel like you're the only people doing something in this space in Leeds, which is not a very like entrepreneurial, forward-thinking city compared to like
Vimto and rum.
yeah. But when you go to an event like that, you're surrounded by another 100 people who have the same problems as you, who are looking for the same advice, who are educating each other on shared experiences. So that was game changing. I think it's a massive mentality shift.
The San Diego Geek Out for me, honestly,
It blew his mind.
blew my mind, changed my
shit.
life, and like the mentality shift was just nuts. Like the people operating there were crazy and also so giving, like really wanting to teach you, not in a pretentious way, but like wanting to help you succeed in areas that you may not be not that you're not successful in any area, but
For someone who doesn't know what Geek Out is, just like explain a little bit about what happens over the course of those days. I mean, obviously there's a high barrier to entry. It's like
during
you
the
know,
day or during the night.
Well, yeah, I'd like genuinely to like talk about that because I know you've got some mad stories. I think from the first one, the story with you and Connor, about where you met him in the airport to what happened on the trip. So it'd be
It's I don't know. It's like it's just an e-com event, but it's like a very close knit,
Yeah.
high level community.
It's more like the first night is all like a free drinks, free food at a bar, no agenda, just everyone meet up, kind of have a good time, and then there's usually like a day or two of education, where it's just talks from like crazy, influential people within the space. Like we had the San Diego one was a guy from who'd helped basically launch Uber, and then you have like more completely like different kind of aspects, like a guy that just builds really, really niche communities on Facebook, but builds them to like 6-7 figure brands. Just like really like the whole point I think Nick was trying to do, Nick and James, was find people that could teach a room full of other entrepreneurs something that they'd never heard before, which is a really hard thing to do. But they did it. And then other things like in Dubai, we did like a safari getaway thing for a day. San Diego, we went and watched UFC in a bar. It's really just like a getaway experience, like networking experience, where you can also learn a lot of crazy stuff.
The biggest
over like 3 days. It's cool.
The biggest motto, the big motto they push is closed mouths don't get fed. So like if you want something and you need something from someone, you go and I think that's a really good motto. I think that's Nick's motto. And it's like if you need something from someone who's there, go and ask and they'll probably give you
it's
it.
like the same as don't ask, don't get in a sense.
For me, the whole event was kind of like Avengers Assemble. So these were people that I had like studied on YouTube, like Dara Denny, a guy called Charlie.
Yeah, I remember
People
you
that
in the cab the other night talking about
I was absolutely fangirling when I saw these guys like just out here just having a burger. I was like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. And then get speaking to them. And again, they're so willing to teach you about things, to share experience, so interested in what we were doing as well. That like it honestly changed everything for me.
Well, the whole thing is a value exchange. Like, you've obviously built a fucking two successful businesses now. If you can offer something of value and they can offer something of value, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But also coming back to it, like you said, Ollie, it's just an experience as well. Being around like-minded people, being around people, you never want to be the big fish.
I was about to say that. I feel like in the UK especially, it's easier to be big fish, small pond.
Yeah, and it puts things into perspective.
It's whereas in the US, there's a much more entrepreneurial culture in the US. Or Well, there's definitely more of a culture, but there's also more of a community. Like there's things that bring them together. There's nothing like that in the UK yet. Yet.
We shall find out.
But
Nice.
yeah,
And then Geek Out by Night.
yeah.
Different story.
Any stories?
Probably need permission from the others.
There's a lot of singing, a lot of karaoke.
I do remember on our For You group
Lot of
chat a
tequila.
video of Ollie dancing like, you know,
He was giving it
couple
the Ollie
tequilas
Hudson arm.
down.
Yeah, a lot of
Straight up,
like you say.
one up in the air, pump,
Anything to be
Just
remembered.
be remembered.
Yeah,
That's
just
the
a lot
key.
of tequila. So San Diego's rife with tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think honestly think that like the most powerful part of that, because Geek Out is not cheap in terms of like actual cost, but is in terms of what you get out of it, is because everyone there knows how much it takes or how much it costs to actually get in there and like what kind of level you need to operate in at. You're seen as an equal by everyone else there. So I could walk up to somebody, a guy that sold his agency for like 8 figures, just walk up to him, and there's no point where he's thinking, you know, who is this guy? Like, is he worth my time? Because we're all there, and it means you can just walk up to someone. Like the one I went to today, walked up to the guy who's got a £130 million fund. In 10 seconds, I'd booked a meeting with him because I was at the same event as him, and he obviously saw me as someone worth talking to. So I think it's just having that like signaling effect of who you are.
I do also think though that the people that Nick invited and the people that were there, almost, I know obviously it was a paid event anyway, but I don't think they would have cast anyone off if even if you were just inquisitive without having to pay that.
No, he's got a good
like everyone that I met, honestly, there was no, like, their whole mantra is no douchebags. And like honestly, I met so many people where it was just like, okay, we're like, they're obviously killing it in their field, but they were like, how can we help you?
I thought that at the Wayflower event we went to.
Yeah.
Like, there's some fucking big fish there. And I think it puts things into a perspective. And it's like, it's motivating as well, like you say, being around those kind of people. Because, yeah, like you say, it's very easy in, you know, in some instances to come across like the big fish. But really, like, there's fucking levels to this shit.
There's levels to everything. There's levels to everything.
I think it's important. Networking overall
so-
is very important in a post-COVID world as well. People think you don't need to do stuff in person. They really underestimate the power of being in front of someone. Like the guy today I met, most people at Geek Out, there's no way you could even speak to them if you tried to email them, call them.
Yeah,
there's just no
100%.
way. So like, why not just go somewhere? It might cost you a lot of money, but you probably get an ROI within an hour of being there.
What advice do you have for someone who, because I know, Joe, you know, you lead the sales side of more so of For You and Saw, and do a lot of networking. What advice do you have for someone who maybe is fairly, you know, doesn't have the best confidence coming into this world? You know, isn't running a 7-figure business like you are. What advice do you have for them if they were in a situation like that? How to deal with it?
It is tough. Like, I still have it today. Like, there was a point where I literally had seen that guy. He'd been on stage. They did like a Dragon's Den bit where him and 3 other people had to assess their ideas. And it's like trying to train your brain to be like, so you think first, what do I want to do? And it was like, I want to go to this guy. I want to speak to him. And it was like, right, I'm going to have to just walk up to him whilst he's talking to someone. You know, you think about all that. And then if you have any sort of slight doubt of doing something, just think, will I have a regret if I don't do that? And if you say that you will, and it's hard to just say, okay, then do it. But that is what you have to do. Just go and do it. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Like, just don't spend too much time thinking about it. And I literally did today. I spent too much time thinking about it because I had to walk in front of the whole room to go and speak to him. And then he started to leave. And I just like got up and like walked after him. I was like,
how did you, because in those situations, I think most people listening will think, I just don't want to come across like a beg. How do you do that?
No, it's true.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah, but
like, how do you do that? How do you do that in a way that is, you know, talk about that.
You have to like really swallow your pride.
I think when you're at a place like, if you're at an event like that though, you're already beyond that. Like, you're not people who are. It's difficult. It's different if you're in like you're in the street and you go up to someone. Like, it's a very different relationship. If you're at like an event where it's So I can see what you mean in that sense.
A lot of it does take practice, but repetition.
Repetition.
Went up and just said, used to be like, just before you go, I really want to speak to you. And it's just like you think all this shit, oh, I'm going to come across a beg and stuff. And then it's all just all made up stuff in your head.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. And I'm such a believer in the butterfly effect. Like, genuine. I mean, obviously it's a thing, but in the sense of the things that I've always been most scared to do, you know, if you think in your head, what would happen if I did that? If you never do it, you won't know, and then you'll live with regret for the rest of your life. Just do it, like just fucking action on it, and then it could be a ripple effect for the rest of your life.
That's the rule I have. Is it's really hard to train yourself to do that, and I don't always stick by it. But it's like the more uncomfortable something makes you feel, as long as it's ethical. That's like, you know what I mean?
You know, caveat that.
You know, it's got to make it clear. You got to make it clear. You know, you got to make it clear. But like today, there's all the things like I'm gonna have to run across in front of a room of all these people. The guy was on the phone, so I'm gonna have to interrupt him. It was like there's so many things that could mess up here. But it was like, okay, for all these reasons, you know, I should probably just go and do it. I think it's just trying to,
I think having confidence in your skill set as well, and knowing exactly that you can add value to a person.
Sorry, like, I'm thinking, and it's like my cogs are whirring. So
He's thinking.
Audible thoughts.
I think just having the confidence and knowing exactly what value you can add. Don't go up to someone if you can't add value to them. Like, what's the point? Like, yes, it's a connection.
I disagree that to a point. I think you should still shoot your shot, even if you can't. There's a lot of people in the world.
Can't fulfill.
But you think you still can provide value if you're thinking that. Surely you can shoot your shot.
No, but I think there's a lot of people who like I would help people who can't provide value to me in certain situations.
If they were just providing the value of you helping them.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't go up to someone if I didn't think that I could like.
Have a good conversation.
Have a good conversation, carry it, and
misunderstood.
Benefit them in some way.
I also think confidence is a muscle. Like
100%.
Before I started a business, I was not a very confident bloke. Like
My muscles are all now.
Like if I was like, if it was like I could not. When we first started the business, like cold calling, couldn't do it. Joe did all the cold calling, but right now I literally wouldn't care about cold calling someone. And it's like take little steps, even if it's just like having conversations with random people on a train or something. Just like get over the fear of speaking to people you don't know first, then progress to the next level and just work the muscle of that. Like people expect to just go from unconfident to confident, like it's like an overnight change. It's like nothing works like that.
Oh, yeah, it's you've got to train it. There's people do that. I think Tim Ferriss did it. Spoke about it in in his book. It was like, set yourself like a task every day to go and like speak to someone, or I think it was go get a girl's number.
Yeah, it's the idea of like putting yourself
part of 75 hard.
Like the biggest thing is like putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. There's nothing more dangerous than feeling comfortable. Like when, for instance, when it was just me in the agency and I was like hovering at like 5k a month, not doing any sales for like 6 months, just happy, content, nothing wrong with that, but I was comfortable as fuck, and as a result, it led to me losing like 80% of the business. Yeah. And that switch of being uncomfortable made me really put my foot down on the gas. And it's so important to like continuously put yourself in those. And I think that's where the whole idea of like the cold showers, and I might be mistaken. It
can be across anything. It can be hard workouts, cold showers, uncomfortable conversations. That's what like Andy Frisella's 75 hard. That's what he pushes. Like, put yourself in uncomfortable situations and you'll grow as a person every time. I think that's the same for confidence. Yeah. There's still some people in the world who I wouldn't go speak to. Like, put me in a room with Elon Musk, I'd probably bottle that conversation. Like,
well, I mean, that guy, like, you say that, but he's probably, you know, in terms of being personable, that's something.
He's probably alright, to be fair. There's some people I'd bottle it though.
Yeah, fair.
I also think that it's
Mason Mount.
Yeah, Mason Mount. Frankie Lamp.
I also think it's good to have a...
Oh,
for fuck's sake. We were in this office the other night after... It's fine, it's done now.
I wasn't here.
Good.
To be fair, that's why we've got grey sofas. You're lucky it's not this side and Joe's lovely, cordial...
He's now at 66% spillage rate on a podcast he's been on.
Where else has he done that?
Matt Kelly's sofa, red wine everywhere.
Well, luckily this is grey, so
Yeah.
The only
White
one he's
sofa.
not spilled on is one we didn't have a drink on.
yeah, fair. Interesting. So another one. We're actually pretty low on rum. We're starting to have to go on to the Baileys or the beers soon. So
Give me a Bailey's. It's not happening.
yeah.
it can't happen.
So I'd like to just move on to, because you started you started a drop shipping store recently?
Nothing's happened yet.
No, but I think what I'd like to talk about is the idea of agency owners moving into e-com. What are your thoughts on that
I
move?
think it's the whole thing of like outsource. Like all of the stuff that we don't know how to do, like the product research in a way, that we didn't have the systems built for. That's not what we do as a company. The back end stuff, the web design, all of the stuff that is actually to do with drop shipping, we've just not done it. we teamed up with someone we met in Dubai, which is again the importance of networking.
I was texting on a
Isn't it antisocial?
The cheat.
First rodeo.
I think
Business.
to sum it up, it's like just focus, maintain focus. Like we've not really distracted ourselves with this other side thing, because we're still, all we're going to be responsible for really is putting up money for it, which is just as simple as putting your card details in and then doing the marketing for it.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to maintain focus. Whereas if it was like, okay, let's take some time now to from scratch build a dropshipping brand by ourselves, like that would not align with what we're doing. That would then have the effects of reducing the impact we're having on the agency. So it's all about like being smart and focusing and outsourcing where possible, delegating where possible. Don't try and, like, if you're an agency owner or have a business that's doing like 10, 20, 30k a month and it's completely relying on you, like don't have shiny object syndrome and
yeah, I think some of the issue is sometimes, like you say, people get bored very quickly and they move on too quickly,
I think e-com's glorified to a degree as well.
Interesting.
I think there's pros and cons to both, right? So in the agency, your revenue is capped by two things: demand and supply of people.
Yeah.
And the quality of those individuals. In e-com, especially recently, your demand is capped by the quality of your assets, product, shipping, fulfillment, individuals still. Marketing spend. Like there's so many, like e-com is, I think e-com's more glorified because it's a lot more like sexy as a thing than growing an agency.
It's 100% sexy.
Like agency's just like selling skills, selling people. But the
Not
agencies,
quite selling people.
well, not people's time, but like
side hustle.
it's a lot more. Agency's more profitable. It's capped by less factors. E-com, especially more recently, is a lot harder to execute on. And I think rewind 3-4 years, it was a lot easier to execute on e-com than it is now. It was a lot lower barrier
People
to
were
entry.
printing money, like
Yeah, they were. You could print money in.
People are now with TikTok.
Yeah,
Yeah,
TikTok.
it's a good
TikTok makes it a lot easier. And it has made it a lot easier, but still, I think there's way more complexity in scaling an e-com store than there is in
100%,
scaling an agency.
Like a long-term, sustainably successful e-com store, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the profit margins that you can get in an agency, like comfortably 40% plus.
Yeah.
Like comfortably.
You're working at 10% net. There's some balance sheets you see, and they're working at like 1 to 3% net profit as an e-com store.
Yeah.
Like that is a horrible place to be.
Yeah. I mean, we were.
That's like where a 4% change or 3% change in your fulfillment or shipping costs ruins your business.
There's dropshippers that done like 50, 60k, and then 2 months later they refunded it all and did nothing.
Yeah.
Because the product was shit and never got there.
Yeah. I mean, like we're getting ROAS of like 15 for a client, and it's still not profitable.
Yeah. So like that's what I mean. Like. I do agree with the idea that e-com probably is more fun as a concept. If it's something if you're really passionate about it, if it's something you really enjoy, that's why I probably haven't, or we or I or whatever haven't started an e-com store, because I've not found anything that I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I think if you were to say like, if you had like a really smoothly operating 7-figure ecom brand or an agency, the ecom brand's going to be the choice because it's so much easier
Much more hands
to
off.
run an ecom brand than it is a 7-figure agency. Like, but I think it's harder to get to that.
I mean, yeah, like if you're building a company to sell, obviously, in terms of like EBITDA and
You get way bigger multiples on ecom.
yeah,
way
obviously,
bigger.
way bigger. And don't fucking talk about like SaaS businesses that aren't even making a fucking profit. They're selling for like
Shout out.
crazy multiples.
Tech,
But
I'd rather go into tech than ecom though, personally, for that exact reason. There's more
Yeah.
money in tech. SaaS, you can get like 10x multiple on a SaaS product. Ecom, you get in 3 or 4, and it's way more like supply chain orientated.
yeah,
There's not that much supply chain in SaaS, other than developers, which to be fair are expensive. But I think it's easy to outsource developers to like India, Pakistan, etc.
yeah. I think as well, in terms of like
is.
investment, you built a couple successful companies now that it wouldn't be hard to raise the money if you've got that proof of concept.
Yeah.
Look at the
It's a good
event
debate, though.
space.
It's a good debate. Everyone has different opinions.
Noah plug.
Like-
Well, there's not much. There's not much. We were talking about this earlier, like festivals, and we all love a festival. You all love a festival.
Right.
There's
You do.
there's not. It's not crazy like, events is a hard gig, a very hard gig. I mean, we were talking earlier about like Glastonbury. I don't think they
Yeah.
even make a profit.
It's just
Must
fun. It's
Yeah.
just fun. Like, well, the event we're gonna bring in is gonna make a profit, but it's gonna be
You
fun.
couldn't have been less subtle across this podcast about this.
Excuse
Like
me, the
the
event's,
hinting of this new event.
By the way, we're doing an ecom event.
Yeah, I was gonna say you may as well have
It's
just
just a
told
convoluted
everyone.
sales pitch. That's the only reason.
Yeah, you might as well say it now.
We are launching an e-commerce event in the UK in Q3 this year.
Love it, love
Yeah.
it.
Some big sponsors,
Huge sponsors.
big
Yeah.
big
Maybe
lineup.
don't say them
No,
just
no,
yet.
Not gonna say sponsors yet, but it's gonna be
It's all
gonna be good.
Yeah, and
probably already sold out tickets with one tweet.
yeah, nice segue actually. So, talk a bit about Twitter because I think people obsess over LinkedIn. I think I think LinkedIn is overrated.
I think they did it.
Depends what
Talk
you
a
do.
bit about your journey. I mean, Joe, you also have grown a following on Twitter. Both talk
Minimal
about your
effort.
journey on.
Shout out to my 191 followers.
And counting.
Talk a bit about that transition over to Twitter and how did you what was the strategy behind growing what you did and then what was the ROI of Twitter
I
for
have
you?
no idea why I've got followers on Twitter.
You
I
say
reckon
that,
I could dumb
but
it down. I reckon.
I think you could easily
I
dumb
think
it
it's
down.
the combination of TikTok and complete and utter like
Transparency.
value,
probably.
transparency. Like I was learning things.
Just
from-
value, isn't it?
I was learning things from his tweets that I'd not learned personally because he was just like he'd see something on an ad account and be like, right, let's fucking tweet it.
Yeah.
And that extreme value, sharing information on Twitter that most companies would think, I shouldn't share this because my competitors will see it and they'll implement it, and I'll
Yeah.
only share it with my internal team. Instead, he's tweeting about it, and then all of a sudden his DMs get absolutely lit up by big brands because they're like, we can't do TikTok ads. You obviously know what you're doing.
The summary,
That's
the
it.
way to the motto is give away the strategy, sell the implementation.
Yeah, I love that.
If you're going for big enough brands, they're not. They could learn it if they spent enough time doing it, but they've not got time. So you give away the strategy, and then you sell. So you show your knowledge, then you sell how to implement it.
Yeah.
I was also having this conversation last night, but people have come for you on Twitter
Oh yeah,
thinking
they're
that
down.
thinking
Bro,
that they could,
just remember the story brand framework. You put that up on
Hey,
Twitter and people are like, that's in a fucking book.
Even worse,
shit. No fucking shit.
even worse than that. We had this on our website.
Oh, that was funny, man.
Someone screenshotted our website, the fact that we had an organic TikTok profile with no followers and like loads of things, and did this tweet without mentioning us, and then was like, "Oh, claims to be doing X, Y, Z, but this is the website, this is the profile."
yeah.
And I was just like, "Well, that's clearly us." And I just called him out, and I was like, "How have you got? This is an agency in the US with quite a decent following, quite big." And I was like,
Name them.
I was like, how have you got to the point that you've like rationalized that this is a really effective use of your time.
Terrible.
And I was like, how does me not having an
But it was-
organic
yeah, it was-
It's
it was
TikTok
such
friend-
that it was
If someone to do that is insecure.
It was so
It's just
so
like- it's so
weird
kite.
points when they were like,
What were they?
Oh.
Wait, what were they saying? Sorry?
They were
So
saying
they're saying
because we
we-
have no
Because obviously-
inorganic, we weren't reputable because we had like we
we're
had.
trying for the organic.
Then they were
right?
trying to say the pictures on our website were fake, and I was like, well, they're not.
They're
so
not.
that's
Yeah,
awkward.
someone was
They're
like,
just
is that-
not us three.
On the For You website.
yeah, someone was like, oh, they're stock images, aren't they? It's like,
No.
It's so distasteful to go after another agency. Like
That was it. And the conversation that I was having last night, it was like, I could understand it if it was maybe a little bit true, but it wasn't at all. Like, Ollie just gives fucking value out. Well, we all try to. I'm big up the 191. But it's just, hoping for this 192 after this podcast. But it's just like, you know, give, like Ollie says, like, you just got to give out as much information as possible because it is a hot topic at the moment.
My pinned tweet is literally how we media in an
Yeah.
infographic.
Yeah.
It's because people.
But if you only if you retweet it.
The first thread I
And then it
did,
gets really grown.
we brought on a 4K a month retainer, like, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was at like
pop
300 followers. It's a crazy platform. I think
LinkedIn is good though if you get it right. But LinkedIn,
Oh yeah, Rich last night. Rich from VideoWise, by the way. For
Shout out
people on the
VideoWise.
podcast.
we
Shout
had,
out.
we had to do we watched a talk at Geek Out San Diego about these two guys from this agency called Grow, and they had LinkedIn down to a T. They were getting like 6 million views per post.
Fucking hell.
Yeah,
Per
Rich,
post, every post.
Rich from VideoWise, his strategy on LinkedIn is unreal.
He spends like, what is it, 30 minutes a day just engaging with the
engaging with
community.
people,
Like
yeah.
he said like he'll post every few days, but he will just reply to people on people's posts. He'll reply to comments like 20, 30 a day.
Just find your
Great
lane.
strategy, man. If
Yeah.
you reply with some value to one person on LinkedIn, they're gonna follow you back.
Yeah,
You
100%.
could do like 10, 20, 30 people every 30 minutes a day. Like they're probably good decision makers.
You just got to find your lane, I think. Like TikTok can work. Twitter worked for me. LinkedIn could work for someone else. YouTube could work for someone else. Like for another agency, it might be like cold emails if they get it right. Like it just works different.
It's just consistency as well, I think, and like I think lead with value.
yeah, definitely.
You know, I don't. Not at one point with your strategy had you at the end of a thread said, "We're for you advertising.
Here's my link."
We're taking on one new client this month." So I think, you know, lead with value over promotion, and, you know, genuinely don't look for anything in return as well.
That does work.
But there is,
However, bringing out a 60-day growth course for Twitter next week.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Good joke, mate.
Terrible joke. Timmy rubs.
I'll be buying that.
Nice.
Big up the 191.
Yeah. Cool. Well, to be honest, I think this has been extremely valuable. I don't want to go on too much longer before people get a little bit too loose, and we still talk about things.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you.
You're under reserves.
Yeah, true.
Big up the 192.
Big up the 192.
Boys, I really appreciate you being here today. It's been fun. We'll definitely need to get a part 2, and there's loads of stuff that we didn't go into, but I want to try and round them up at around an hour. So appreciate it. We've also got dinner that we need to go to.
We must have been going for longer than an
I
hour.
also need a wee.
We've been going for an hour and 14, correct? And we need to go to dinner like now, so we'll wrap it up. But if you want to find these guys, Oliver Hudson on Twitter, is it?
Oliver W. Hudson.
Oliver W. Hudson. I won't ask what the W stands for, but
William.
Willie.
Not very- we should have left it quiet.
William, it's William.
I need everyone. So Liam_Dean_.
You've got an under 92 now.
Nah, that's my
Joe, where can they find you?
Same Twitter.
Oh, 192. Wow, I've been
My
on
Twitter
air.
is Joe J the letter Marston, and then go to our website foryouadvertising.com.
I was going to say, for you advertising, Soar with us, Hammy Media.
And I'm Liam.
Thank you guys for watching. If you found this of value, please give it a like, share it with a friend. Obviously, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and rate us 5-star on Spotify. I'd really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one.
Hey.
Cheers.